Why World of Warcraft needs to move on. Oh, this is an interesting title. Probably has to do with some lore. We got, some of the Gilneas stuff in here. Let's see what he's talking about here.
World of Warcraft needs to learn to move on, and I think Blizzard knows it too. Let's be real, Warcraft is old. Wait a second. Older than that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, even older. There. Perfect. World of Warcraft is coming up on its 20th anniversary.
Damn,
and
20
the
years,
Warcraft
man.
franchise itself is near 30. At this point...
Holy crap. Hold on. How old is it? 30? 1990? Wow, the World of Warcraft fan. I was 4 years old when this shit started. Damn. And I was 15 when I started playing WoW. I'm 33 now. Some context for you guys. Holy crap.
At this point, Azeroth probably knows what a 401k is. With any universe that's been around for this long, the lore starts to pile up. We've got games, thousands of quests, in-game lore books,
True.
actual books, comics,
You weren't even born
cinematics,
yet.
and any other type of media that can fit in big shoulder pads and oversized boots. There's a lot of story in Warcraft, and that can be a bit of a problem if Blizzard doesn't treat the universe in the correct way.
True.
In an effort to be fully transparent, I really like Warcraft, as you can tell with all this. And I also make an effort to keep this channel positive and respectful towards the lore, as I think it can be a bit...
Wow, isn't that refreshing? A positive World of Warcraft channel? That's crazy, man. I hope this guy's channel does well, because I feel like most people feel like they just got to be negative Nancy's about the game all the time to get the clicks. Hey, it's okay to like the game. It really is. A lot of people make it their personality. They got to hate the game for some reason. You know what? I like the game too. So we got that in common.
Overhated at times. However, if you ask me what I think
Although
the
sometimes the hate is probably just overly passionate about the game. A lot of people love the game too.
biggest problem with the Warcraft universe is,
You were 6.
I'd have to say, it just can't let go of the past. What do I mean by that? Well, Warcraft is kept to a pretty small cast of characters over its lifespan. And while a ton of other characters exist, any major event happening is going to reach into this hat and pull out one of these core characters. But with the
Right.
franchise is coming up on its 30th anniversary, some of these characters are old. While I get that figureheads are deeply loved by players, having them stick around like this is starting to muddy their story, and that can only lead to the eventual completion.
I have to say, the characters being old, one really cool thing about it is we've actually gotten to see characters age in real time. Like, age at the same rate as us. Like, Anduin, when we started the game, was a little kid. I don't know how old he was in lore terms. I think he was like 7 years old when he was standing there in the throne room in Stormwind before Varian came back. And now, I believe he's in his 20s. And like, that's real age. Like, he has aged every year, aged a year. Like, real-time aging. Which is a really cool aspect of the game that most games can't do because they haven't been around for freaking 20-plus years. So I think it's been a cool aspect of the game, actually, that's been around so long that we've gotten to see the characters age, real-time aging, just like us.
Their tale to be unfocused. Let's use Sylvanas as an example. What used to be one of the greatest characters in the franchise now makes people very upset when you talk about her. Her story started out as the Ranger General of Silvermoon, who lost her life defending the
time
city
skip after Shadow,
and
that's
or
true.
doing a sick-ass power slide.
I have no time for games.
The power slide.
She'd then be raised by Arthas.
The
and
most unnecessary power slide ever in the game. She power slid into her death, but damn, oh, that's a nice shot right there.
I
Yeah,
have
damn.
no time for games.
She'd then be raised by Arthas
Looks cool,
and
though.
forced to serve in his scourge. However, through sheer determination and spite, she'd break free from his control and do everything in her power to see him meet his end. Along the way, she'd become the leader of the Forsaken, the undead citizens of Lordaeron who had met a similar fate to her. A people who had been wronged and cast out and forgotten,
was
pushed
cool.
away by their still living kin. Genuinely grade A stuff.
Yeah,
One
really
of the
good
best
storyline.
stories in the franchise.
Yeah.
And then, we get him. Arthas dies. With her sole purpose to continue living gone, Sylvanas would become aimless. However, her people need her, so she continues on. Her story from here would evolve into trying to secure a way for
This
people
was a
to
good
continue to
storyline,
exist
too.
by creating new Forsaken.
This was great, like, and it was very, you know what, like, Sylvanas herself wanted to live, right? And it made sense, but at the same time, she was doing this for her people. A lot of this motivation made sense. She was trying to create new undead. You know, she kept talking about, she told Garrosh, like, our people can't procreate, so we're just going to eventually die off if we can't bring more. You know, Garrosh calls her a bitch. Fantastic. It was a cool moment. But he tells her, you know, what makes you different from the Lich King? And I serve the Horde. That was what she said. And then that obviously that line goes out the door because at the end of the day she wasn't, which kind of scuffed up the lore a little bit. But at this point, Sylvanas was a really cool and interesting character. I used to like the Sylvanas lore a lot.
For people to continue to exist by creating new Forsaken, instead of simply letting their culture die out. Again, great stuff. Eventually, we're going to start running into some problems, though. Because in Legion, Sylvanas was inexplicably declared the war chief, which, let's be real, was probably mostly because of how popular she is. Now we need to move the story forward around that. Legion comes and go, and then we got Battle of Azeroth, where this story just goes completely off the rails.
Yeah.
We start to see Sylvanas betray everything she stood for.
This
Saying
is the
things
beginning
like
of the
she
end.
wants to kill off Hope, or that the Horde are nothing. A complete character assassination in record time.
This made no sense.
Then we have Shadowlands, where things just go to an entirely different level, which I don't want to dig into. But the point being, Sylvanas went from probably the most popular character in the franchise to the most divisive, because her story just keeps going. At a certain point, it should have reached a natural conclusion, with a new character taking the reins of the Forsaken. But
Probably
instead,
right.
we now have this corpse of a story we need to deal with that'll never totally be resolved. For that reason, for the health of Warcraft, we need to start letting go. A lot of the main characters are old enough to have kids, or already do. I think it's time we start passing the torch to some of these younger characters and let the old pillars of the franchise take a much needed break.
Yeah, I mean, passing of the torch isn't easy though. It has to be done right. I mean, we've seen large characters do it, and we saw Varian and pass the torch to Anduin, right? He died. It gets passed on to Anduin, and that whole thing happened, and people didn't like it at first. Anduin was not a very liked character because he was such a different character than his dad, who was very headstrong. He was a badass leader. He did things he had to do, and then you got Anduin, who's all about these peace talks and everything. But I'll be honest, I think Anduin's coming around. Yes, people call him a crybaby and shit, but the guy's been through a lot. I think you got to put that in a context, too, about why he is the way he is. But I actually think Anduin's coming around, and hopefully in the War Within, he's going to get redeemed. I think he's going to have some cool moments, especially going forward with his practices with the light and Hallowfall and that zone and everything. Things are going to happen with him that I'm very excited to see. So that happened. There was a passing of the torch. But yes, a lot of the other characters that he's mentioning are old as shit. I mean, I don't know if they still got the fight in them, to be honest. These guys are, Malfurion, well, he's a night elf, so and all that, but he's pretty damn old. Shit, Terrellian in the lore is like over 1,000 years old. Yeah, a lot of these guys do got to pass the torch. Terrellian has a son. We'll see if he gets the torch. Child of shadow and light, maybe. Who knows? But a lot of these, yeah, I agree with him. A lot of these torches need to be passed. Okay, but Thrall must live on, yeah.
Before we dig into the why, though, I want to take a quick moment to let you all know that I've launched my Patreon. Creating videos has been a lot of fun, and if you'd like to support me directly, then I would greatly appreciate that. There's only 2 tiers at the
been
moment.
good, man.
A $1 tier that gives you special on my Discord and ad-free versions of my videos, as well as a $3 tier that gives you access to early previews alongside some other goodies. These tiers also include the obligatory shout-out at the end of my videos, YouTube stuff. There's a lot of fun stuff I plan on doing with my Patreons, so I hope to see you there.
This is awesome, man.
But yeah, all right, let's get back to our regularly scheduled rambling. So why do I think this is so important? Well, the only reason I'm as attached to the lore as I am is because of a character that only got the spotlight because it was time for someone else to move on. Anduin Wrynn.
Just talked about this.
As you could probably tell from my Anduin video, I really like him as a character. As to why is for a myriad of reasons. But
honestly, I think Anduin gets a bad rap, unfairly. I think Anduin, and that maybe in Pandaria he was a bit kind of, but he was a teenager. You got to remember, we've witnessed Anduin age. All teenagers are fucking annoying. IRL teenagers are annoying as shit, right? We look back at ourselves when we were teenagers and we're like, damn, I did a lot of stupid shit. I was annoying as hell. That's what Anduin was in Pandaria, and that's what people started to hate on him. But now he's having his coming of age, and I think he's actually, I liked him in the War Within cinematic. I liked the moments that he had. And even though, I want some badass, hairy men with shields fighting, it's okay with me to witness Anduin struggle a little bit because his backstory is a struggle and makes sense. Doesn't feel forced like all the dragon hugging that we're witnessing right now in Dragonflight. Anduin's story makes sense, and his emotions make sense. And I'm okay with that. I think he's going to be a strong man at the end of the day. He's going to come through. I'm excited to witness it.
The core component is that his first time in the spotlight coincided with when I started the game. Okay, so if you're one of my older viewers, shout out to the 60-plus crowd. I respect the hell out of you. You may want to sit down for this. I started the game in Mists of Pandaria.
Ooh.
I was
He's a
12,
miss
and I
baby.
just got the battle chest and everything else I needed to start my journey on Azeroth. I
Nice.
joined this world of storied heroes and
Miss
dragons.
was a good expansion.
Man, I was hooked. And of course, when you have a younger character whose story is very reflective of his age,
Yeah.
newer and younger players will relate to them more readily.
True.
I related to Anduin's themes and his fish out of water story in Mists. And when Legion rolls around and his story evolves into one about growing up and accepting responsibility, right when I was hitting the latter half of my teenage years, I got to grow up alongside Anduin.
That's the cool
And
thing
through that
about WoW.
connection, I got
No
invested
doubt.
into the deeper lore of the franchise. If it wasn't for Anduin, I wouldn't have started reading the books, watching old cutscenes, or learning about all the other characters. Everyone that gets obsessed with the lore has that one character that leapfrogged them into their addiction.
True. Yep.
So-
Arthas Menethil. That's mine, man. The Lich King. He got me into the lore. Well, I wanted to know everything about Arthas. He was the reason I started reading up on lore. He was the reason I wanted to know what the hell is this Culling of Strathome. I remember I ran the Culling of Strathome. I didn't even know what it was. I did the whole thing, and I was like, what is this? Why are we killing people? Why is Arthas? This is the guy who becomes the Lich King. I remember realizing, I was like, oh my god, Arthas. Yeah, that's the guy who becomes the Lich King. And bro, I went off. That was it. I fell, deep into the lore at that moment. He's totally right about that. You always have that one character that pulls you in, and then you start to learn about everybody else and start to learn about the lore in general.
Who do the new players have? Not anyone, really. And if we want Warcraft to live on for another 20 years, we need to start building a revolving door of heroes. What makes this universe special is the world. And if
This is
we
the
want
guy
to
who
have the
becomes a
depth
wisp.
we need
Oh
it
my
to,
God, don't tell me
characters
that
need to
over
be
and over.
born, age, retire, pass on, whatever. Warcraft needs to have legacy.
Yeah, you know why he's totally right. This is a really good video. He's totally right. You know why Varian Wrynn is still a badass? Because he died. Because he died. Because he didn't live long enough to see himself become the villain, as they say. You die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. It's totally true. Varian Wrynn died a hero. His story was badass from Logarsh all the way until, he became the King of Stormwind again and all this stuff happened. And then he dies in an epic battle, sacrificing himself to let the Alliance get away from the Broken Shore. Badass. Had he still been alive right now in Dragonflight, could you imagine Varian Wrynn in the Dragonflight storyline, all this huggy-kissy shit? His character would have been ruined. For sure his arc would have been ruined. This would have made no sense. Yeah, Varian died a hero, and that's why he's still a beloved character. Arthas Menethil. He's a bit controversial just because they fucking continued his lore post-death, but had they just let him die, he would have been great. Died a villain, but still badass lore. Great lore. And he died just in time. It was perfect. They continued his story on, people hated that shit. Perfect example of going too far with somebody's story.
What's Thrall's legacy?
Became a wisp,
Jaina's,
sadly.
Khadgar's? They don't really have one because they're still kicking around and pulling up to the raids. What are these characters going to be known for? A giant wiki page? For a comparison, let's look at Varian. His story started in Classic. We have the whole Onyxia clone fiasco,
Yeah.
the war in Northrend, his handling of the Horde rebellion against Garrosh, and his influence on Anduin.
I love
We
Varian,
firmly
man.
remember Varian as a valiant hero who tried his best to be a good father and king,
Yeah.
and who lost his life suddenly on the Broken.
As a father, that's why I feel like I love Varian so much. He's definitely my second favorite after Arthas. And I feel like just like you talked about how you relate to things. Damn, I see how he looks at Anduin. I saw he was trying to protect his son. He looked at the little compass on his way to the Broken Shore, wondering if he'd ever see him again, and he didn't end up seeing him again. But those moments, those fatherly moments, yeah, I relate to them. I do. And I started playing this game when I was 15. Obviously, I wasn't a dad yet. But I became one. And as I did, Varian came back, and all that shit happened, and I got it. Yeah, I definitely related to him.
Shore. And because Blizzard put an end to his story, Varian has a solid characterization.
He does.
That isn't muddied by decades of various stories.
Very true.
A lasting legacy for other characters to build on. Would Anduin's story be as fulfilling as it is if he didn't lose his father so suddenly? Heck, if Varian was still kicking around, Anduin would probably still be a baby prince begging everyone to stop fighting instead of the complex character that he is. But I don't think any of this is new information to Blizzard. With a renewed focus on building the groundwork for the next 20 years of
Yeah.
storytelling, we can already see Blizzard taking strides to give new characters the spotlight.
World Soul Saga looks like it's
the
going to be
newest
good.
patch, 10.2.5, where we see two characters take the reins of Alliance factions, Tess Greymane and Chandra's Feathermoon. Well, these are characters that have existed for a long time
Yeah.
and have a lot of fans. They really haven't gotten the spotlight until now. That's because Tirana and Gen had been figureheads of their people for just so long.
True.
Both of these characters were really in need of retirement for different reasons. Tyrande has honestly just been through too freaking much. And as she said,
Tyrande.
Dragonflight, she's tired, y'all. As I've said, some of these characters need a break, with Tyrande chief among them. That's why I'm happy to see Chandris get the reins for a bit. And while Chandris has also been there for a lot of these hard times, as an audience, we haven't had her on screen the entire time. So
True.
It doesn't clock the same way.
Yeah.
As for Tess, she needs to step up because Gen is just a
He's an old
dead-end
man.
character now. He's mostly been relegated to just being a surrogate father for Anduin.
True.
And kind of ignoring that his own kid exists.
I mean, he didn't ignore her. He tried to get her. He tried to get her to marry Anduin, if you remember that. He offered her to Anduin, and Anduin didn't, turned it down. But
Tess
so
rightfully
he
throws
did-
some
he
shade
did-
his way for.
he tried to
And
use her. a
let's be
little
real.
bit, maybe.
Between Hearthstone and the Legion Rogue campaign, people just like Tess way more. She deserves to be
What's
a
up,
figurehead
Moishi?
of Gilneas and get some proper room to breathe. If we want the Warcraft story to be better, we need to start letting go of some of the past. While
I
we all
agree.
cheer and holler when our favorite characters show up every raid tier, maybe we should take a step back and consider the lasting implications of dragging these old heads around from patch to patch.
Yeah.
While Blizzard is the ones in charge of the story, I think we as players have a bit of responsibility too. We should care about the legacy of our characters. Ask ourselves how we want to see these stories wrap up. Should our favorite characters settle down, start a family, or die in an epic sacrifice?
Sourfang. Sourfang is also a badass character that had a badass story arc. I liked Sourfang. And, he's dead now. So that's probably why his story is actually pretty good. If he was still alive right now, he probably wouldn't be as good. There is some truth to this video, most definitely.
Settle down, start a family, or die in an epic sacrifice.
Yeah.
Maybe mentor the
Badass.
newest generation of heroes.
Whatever happened to that
Because
troll?
as we all know in Warcraft,
Whatever happened to the shaman troll, the badass shaman troll? What happened to this guy? Remember Zappy Boy? He was so badass. Is he still? I'm not on the Horde. Is he still around doing his thing? I'm gonna give me an update
generation
on
of
it.
heroes.
He was a cool character.
Because as we all know in Warcraft, you either die the hero, or you live long enough to be a villain.
There it is.
Anyways, this has been Six.
No, not Vulture.
Make sure to subscribe and click that notification bell. I'll see you guys next time.
Great video. I'm actually becoming a big fan of Sixten. If you guys haven't seen his videos before, he's only got like 2, I think, right now on his channel. He's very new to the game, but check out his videos, guys. He's very cool. Subscribe if you haven't already. Give him some love. I love his new channel, and I love what he's been doing with it. In terms of what he said in this video, 100% accurate. But it's got to be done correctly. You know, letting a character pass away, a main character. I mean, we've seen it done in the Marvel universe, right? It's scary, right? You take out Iron Man, you take out Captain America, you basically cripple the Hulk, you do all this stuff to these main characters to try to pass the reins, but it has to be done the right way. The new characters have to have some nuanced depth to them and some likability to them. And that's the problem with Marvel is a lot of these new characters, who gives a shit about these guys? They suck. They just don't live up to the hype at all. So, definitely, WoW does need to see the reins passed, and I think it's happening with Anduin the right way. We're going to see if Tess Greymane can do it and some of the others. It has to happen. But it has to be done the right way, and hopefully it gets done the right way going forward because the lore matters. It matters to the health of the game. We'll see.